Welcome to Out with Dan, the podcast that spotlights and examines the voices of LGBTQ+ authors, characters, and our allies. Together, we lift our voices and we tell our stories. I'm Dan White. Join me as I chat with this week's author. Hello and welcome back to Out with Dan. Today I'm beyond excited to talk to Lisa Scottoline about The Unraveling of Julia. Lisa is a New York Times bestseller, an Edgar Award-winning author of over 30 novels. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. So I have all these questions. Some of them will be a little goofy, which most people that listen know I'll ask a goofy question every
I
now
love
and then.
goofy. I am
Good.
goofy.
So let's start with the simple. When is your birthday?
July 1st.
All right. And do you believe in astrology?
Yes.
I do too. And I love the fact that you wove astrology throughout this book in such a seamless fashion. Did you have fun inserting those things?
This book for me is really different in a lot of ways, and it was more fun because we can talk later about why I wrote it now, but I think this character, Julia, is a bit of a seeker. And I think I am too. And I actually like that about me. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I'm a little suspicious when people do. So a little bit, she's kind of like, she is just more aware from this event that happens to her. She has a straight up premonition. And so she is open to the fact that there is more to what around her than what she can physically see. And I believe that. So astrology is a part of that. The channeling is a part of that. All that's her spirituality is in flux. And I feel that way too.
So I will say, I'm going to use this word and it's pun intended. You certainly thrust us into the action right away in the first chapter. There's no waiting around for the slow burn. Lisa clobbers us right over the head. So now that I've set that up, how about give the audience an overview of what The Unraveling of Julia is about?
Well, that's very well said. And I'm fine with the pun because basically what happens is, look, I'm a thriller writer. So even though this is an emotional novel and layered in a lot of ways, it starts on page 1 when Julia is walking down a Philadelphia street with her husband and she starts to have a bad feeling. Now, she doesn't call it a premonition because she never had one before. But all of a sudden she starts to have a really bad feeling. And the next thing that happens is somebody comes around the corner and actually there's a mugging and her husband is stabbed to death in front of her. So that was the idea I had this year. I never write with an outline. I just go, okay, wow, that's an idea. We'll find out in about 7 months if it's a really good idea. That's where I just go with it. That's why you need spirituality if you're an author, because you have to believe, you have to trust the universe.
Yes.
Things are not going to go horribly wrong like your second marriage did.
Well, and I think you also have to trust that the reader has some kind of connection with you, the author, because I do think we talked a little bit before we started recording. I do think that we're attracted to certain things. I mean, there are books I'll see in the airport that I buy on a whim. And it's because that particular book spoke to me. Right. And I know it's sometimes some people like, they roll their eyes and they think, well, that's silly. But I've actually been sitting on the couch reading when a book on my coffee table says, put that down and read me now. And I do, because for whatever reason, I need that right now. And so that I firmly believe in that. So I was on the ride with Julia. But now, Julia inherits a villa in Tuscany. And I will say I've never been to Tuscany, but it's certainly on my bucket list now, because as an author, you paint a very broad canvas with lots of color and lots of detail. I know a lot of authors that I particularly love who are very sparse in their details. You seem to be on the other end of the spectrum, but I will say you are an artist through and through, Lisa, because there wasn't a sight or a sound or a smell that I couldn't physically have at that moment.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. And it's hard because you want a book to move fast.
Yes.
But when I think about what really makes a page turner, I'm kind of president of Mystery Writers of America. I think a lot about how to make these books. I've written like 35, as you say. I think the primary ingredient is that you care a lot about the character.
Yes.
And that you don't go overboard on the detail. That said, when I had this setting and I went to Tuscany to do the research, which was as fantastic as and delicious.
I would have too, Lisa. Nice tax write-off. Good for you.
I mean, I've set books in Pittsburgh. That was fun too, but it was not Tuscany. I can say this as a Pennsylvanian, a Philadelphian. So, but to me, what happens is the headline is that Julia inherits this estate, which after this horrific thing happens to her, and a lot of money, and she from a benefactor in Tuscany whose name she doesn't know, and she's an adoptee, so she's got to go and get answers. But also, it's much more about the mystery of her own identity. And when she gets there, she finds that the person who left her this vast estate, which by the way is falling down. It's like a scary villa as opposed to your beautiful under the Tuscan. I wanted dark Tuscany. I wanted Gothic. Italian Gothic is a genre.
It is
1700s. It straight up is. And I was like, I read it all, and I'm like, damn it, I'm gonna resurrect, the Otranto here. I mean, and that is so rich. Italy's so imbued with babies because it's so old. So you go to old Tuscany, it's falling down, and you're like. And the character there, who's the benefactress, sort of believes that she may or may not delusionally believe that she is a relative of a true life person, Caterina Sforza, who was the only woman ruler during the Renaissance. And I've always sort of been interested in Caterina. So when I started to write this, I was like, I didn't want to write historical, though, because I wanted to write what inspires you. What can you as a woman or man, who do you look to become what you should be? Because that's really Julia's problem in this book. Who was I?
Mm-hmm.
Who's my blood? And where am I now? What can I become? And so she starts to experience delusions about Caterina Sforza too. Or are they delusions? I don't want to give anything away, but It just was all percolating in me, And Tuscany was a real part of that. So when you have a setting that's going to, I always think the word rich. When it's such a rich setting, you have to let it speak to you. I think it goes back to what you just said at the beginning of this interview, Dan, which is wonderful. Why, as soon as I saw you on the camera, I was like, I like this guy. Your shirt speaks to me. Your art speaks to me. The way you look, like not everybody, let me put it this way. People should try to be open to what speaks to them.
Absolutely.
Right? Because that leads you to great art and great decisions and things that are more, it goes back to like the well-examined life isn't worth living. Conversely, the examined life is really a lot more worth living. That's what I sort of think of. And all of that's kind of operating in this book, believe it or not.
Well, it is. And one of the things that I loved was the dynamic between Julia and her best friend, Courtney. And the reason I loved it is because I thought, no matter how far out on the branch Julia went mentally, Courtney still loved her and they were still close friends. And I think that speaks testaments to Julia's ability to attract someone and keep them in her life. And I think that's why the loss of her husband is so tragic to her. Aww. So you give her both light and dark. And I will say, Lisa, for a minute there, I thought, is the poor woman going to catch a break? And then she catches a break, which is so beautiful. And then, of course, you throw in a little romance and the framework of a romance novel, you throw that in there as well, as well as being a wonderful psychological thriller. Because I think all the readers read this and we're like, wow, is she losing her mind? Is there redemption for Julia? And the title says The Unraveling, and she surely unravels.
Right. Well, it's also why you write a certain book at a certain time. I mean, the backstory of this is that for 40 years ago, I've been thinking about this. Long story short, my friend bought me an hour with a channeler for my birthday, July 1st, right?
Lovely.
And I didn't really believe it. And I was like, but I'll go. It was a gift. And I was at the lowest point of my life, honestly. I was a single mother. I've been a single mother forever, but it was a new single mother. I didn't have a job. I didn't know if I could go back to being a lawyer, which is what I had. So I wanted to stay with my daughter and raise her. And the channeler, I'll tell it short, closed her eyes and said to me, you're miserably unhappy. I'm like, yeah, I kind of know.
Sorry to laugh.
I could have told you that. And she said, it's because your spirit guides, it's going to sound corny, but I'm just going to say it. Your spirit guides are trying to tell you what you want to do and you're not listening. And I said, what is it they want? What is it I want to do? And she said, you want to tell stories, you want to be a writer. Now, I'm just going to tell you that I did want that, but I never told a soul. I have great girlfriends. That's why this book, to a certain extent, is an homage to female friendship, any friendship.
Mhm.
But I had never said those words out front before. Now, listen, you could say, if you're a skeptic, she just took a good guess. Who doesn't really? Well, everybody.
Right.
But I will tell you the second part of that equation, which is that when she said that, it resonated in me. I said, somebody just, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So years and years ago, I saw a medium, and her name is Elaine, and she is the love psychic. Now, that's not why I went to her, but I
Okay.
went to her because she was a suggestion from a friend of mine, and I'm a believer. So
Okay.
during my reading, Elaine says to me, Danny, you're maybe the strangest person I've ever read for. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not sure if that's good or bad. And she said, I have set up so many couples that have had long lasting relationships. And she said, you're the only person I've ever read for that I don't see a partner for. Now, of course, you go home, you lick your wounds, and you feel sorry for yourself until I really came to realize that I'd never seen anyone in a picture with me. I'd seen myself in lots of fabulous places, but no one standing next to me. And it gave me permission to understand that while we're sold a myth of everyone has a soulmate and should have a partner for life, that doesn't happen for everybody. So I got a chance to either choose to be happy or unhappy. I chose to be happy and live my life. Now, I don't close the door that it might not happen, but I
Right.
also don't sit around waiting, because why? You lose your life by waiting or
I
doing the wrong thing.
No, and I've been single forever now, and I kind of dig it. I mean, and you're
Yeah.
right. I do think and also being my daughter is, well, now she's 40, but I sort of was aware that I was modeling for her. I didn't want her to think she needed enough to complete her.
Yes.
That's BS. Or to earn a living. That's also BS. And in a way, and now most of my female friends are divorced, but we all go, we're kind of happy the way it turned out. I feel I'm free. We call it single, and that sounds bad, but really what I am is free.
Yes. Yes.
That's great.
And
That's
it's priceless in a lot of ways. I've never been a big fighter or arguer. That's just not in my nature. I grew up with a narcissistic mother who loved me, but it was her way or the highway. So I
mm,
never had that chance to learn to spar.
mm.
I'm sort of like my mother. I fight to win. And that's not something I want to bring to any kind of personal interrelationship, because I'm like, I feel like at some point I would be unfair to the other person, because I think I would just, I'd want to win at such a cost, I'd decimate the person. And that's not a healthy way to live your life.
Well, I think what you're touching on is something I think a lot about too. After 10 years of therapy, which is where I graduated. Can you tell? I'm great now. Where do we come from? What do we learn? And that is very much at issue in this book, because she's
Yes.
trying to find her blood, and she
Yes.
doesn't know any of her blood relatives. And you know, it's interesting because I'm actually working on the sequel to it, because I felt like, wow, this story isn't finished. You start a book, if you're me, you don't really know. Some characters are series worthies and some are not.
Yes.
It kind of is like
Yes.
and I also thought I was writing, because you write a book at a specific point in time. And in a way, I go to myself, Lisa, what I had this channeler thing forever. Why did you write this now? And part of it was because I think, without getting into politics, no matter what your politics are, you think you probably stressed out about now.
Yes. Yes.
We have a great deal of uncertainty. Our institutions, I think, are failing us. I'm a lawyer. I love the profession. I've been a law clerk. I've been a law professor. So the implosion of the courts, the corruption that I'm seeing throughout this system, is destabilizing to me. So
Yes.
I thought, look, as you know, our rates of alcoholism and drug abuse are up. We're having a hard time right now. There's lot less certainty. There's more war. And so I said, this is the kind of character that brings out the seeker in anybody, really.
Yes. Yes.
These are the times that call for, I mean, you couldn't write a character right now who has all the answers. To me, it wouldn't resonate at all. I'm not interested in writing that, and I don't want to read that. Who's that?
Right. Well, and I don't think other people want to read it either, Lisa, because they've no hope. And see, that's the thing about thrillers. A girlfriend of mine, Marie Sutro, said, the
Oh,
thing
I
about
love her. She's
the
wonderful.
thing she is wonderful. She said the thing about thrillers is you have to give readers hope. There has to be hope because otherwise we don't want to read it. We can turn on the news for the non-hope day or the non-hope news, but we want to hope. I mean, reading this book, you root for Julia. You want to know why is she unraveling and who's behind whatever it is going on because I think as a reader I don't think I'm unique in the fact that I knew there was something more than just what Julia was seeing at that moment. There must be some machinations in the background somewhere, underground, above ground, wherever. There had to be something there because
Right,
I don't think you as an author are going to give me an unredeemable character
right.
or a character I can't root for. So I was waiting, and then when it begins to dawn a little bit, and so towards the end of the book, there's a scene where she gets up early in the morning and she goes out to watch the sunrise. And I
Mhm.
won't give away what she sees, but I'm here to tell you it was tears were flowing. It was just so beautifully done, Lisa.
Thank
It was you. I mean, you could. I think if somebody says, "Oh, I didn't get that," I'm like, "Okay, you're dead inside."
you. That's very kind of you to say. I do think that's what I love the arts. If you ask me what's the purpose, like the purpose of the art, like why do I write? Besides the fact I had that great story, it makes me personally happy. I mean, I'm in front of my books that are only signed. These are just I have 5,000 books in this house. You probably have a ton of books too.
Yes, ma'am.
It's because I do think that soul connection is a real thing. Like when I saw you, I was,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
connect.
Precisely.
And and if you really put your soul into a book, like I know the chapter you're talking about, and I was like, it's got to make me cry to make somebody else cry. Like I have to go. You really do. In a way, it sounds crazy, but I've never said this out loud. But I just realized that I do think you kind of channel characters when you're writing them and when you're reading them. You get so much in that person's consciousness that you're
That's right.
walking in her shoes. And
That's
you're,
right.
oh my God, what is she feeling right now? And to make that happen, I have to think, what is she feeling right now? And feel it. And
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah. I think so. I think that really is what makes the greatest authors as great as they are. And there are lots of wonderful books out there. We hear all about publishing is on the down slope or whatever. I mean we've a wealth of books out there. There are fabulous books amongst fabulous books and we have so much talent and so much creativity in today's writing world. We're seeing things that we've never seen before. We're
Yeah,
having new ideas. Something that most people like, oh, everything is a retelling, but is it? I think the most creative people are bringing us books that make us think a different way than we might ordinarily think.
absolutely. And you know, I think every sort of novel answers the question like, what is it like to be you? Which
That's
is
right.
usually when I do research, like when I'm talking to a school teacher in Tuscany, which is in this book, I say to her, what is it like to be you? And I love that. And that's lovely what you said about writing. I believe that you couldn't buy more books than I do. I read so much and I just love it. And I think that everybody is sort of the thing is my daughter, Francesca Sartell, is now in her second novel, which is wonderful, just out, title full bloom, I have to say. And I'm going to say to you what I said to her, which is, no, it's actually a line from a Sondheim. George hit Sunday in the Park with George, and Sarah
Hmm?
is saying everything has been said, every story has been told. And Marie says to him, not told by you, George. And I
Oh,
cry at that every time. Also,
yep.
in that song, there's like Moving On, which is about artistry. It says, stop wondering if your vision is new. Let others make that decision. They usually do.
All
You
right.
moving on. No story. So no one's told that story but you. And
That's
so
right.
you tell it. Have we read stories before with their spooky castles in Italy? Yeah, that's my point since the 1800s. But I want to do this one. And this one's different. And people get that. And it's the wonderful thing about humanity. It's why AI will never write a great novel
That's
because
the
it has
truth.
to come from the soul, and that's what you have to feel the soul to be moved by it.
Well, and I think that's certainly what you've done here. You've certainly brought us
Oh, thank
a
you.
protagonist we want to root for, a cast of characters that we know, even the bad ones, because everybody's had a job at some point, so they've run into it. And it is, while this isn't necessarily a straight line, but it is sort of like the saying from Barnum. There's a sucker born every day,
Mhm.
and then I like to add, and there's two shysters looking for them. So because that is, I mean, that's a very big thing. And of course, when people gaslight you, you really begin to think the worst of yourself, because that's what gaslighting does. and i
Right, right.
and
I
I
think.
just,
Go ahead.
yeah, so I was going to say, I think that this is both is such a love story to Tuscany, and also to the word love.
Oh, that is so kind of you, and I'm feeling you now. I think that's really true because I think that. Oh, no, my thought went away. You had just said it
Sorry.
though.
Yeah.
No, it
Oh, we
was.
were talking about gaslighting.
Oh, yes. That in my life, I have been deceived. And the first thing when you realize you have been deceived is how could I have been so stupid? Why didn't I see it? And
It's
you
always about the internal blame.
exactly. And at some point you have to go, you didn't see it because that person was really good at gaslighting, because that person lied and you're trusting and you believed.
That's
And
right.
and that's sort of what you're alluding to. And I think it's really, really a good point. And Julia is, to a certain extent, I mean, she's trying to get to the bottom of things. And I think she mirrors, me at certain points in my life, and everyone when they have trouble and somebody is telling you X and you believe Y. And I think that is exactly what the world we're living through now. And so we have to find a way to cope and understand what's real and have some internal truth that we stand in, which is not easy. And
No,
she does, she tries.
no. So right after this podcast comes out, you will be here in Los Angeles, or sorry, California. You'll be down in Orange County at
Right.
a slice of literary orange. I love the title of that series, down at the Orange County Library on the 24th. So I'm definitely going to see you, and anyone in the LA area or Orange County area or even San Diego should make the trip to Orange County. It's a wonderful location. It's a great place to eat and spend the night if you get a chance. And we'll see fabulous Lisa Scottoline.
I am really looking forward to that. I'd love to see you there, Dan, and we have to have a drink.
We absolutely will. So, Lisa, do you have a website or social media you'd like to share with the audience?
Anybody can find me at scottolini.com. I'm on Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook, and whatever, Instagram. It's all me, by the way. I'm a fan of authenticity. So there's not a great Scottolini machine that
Right.
does my social media. It's all me going, look at my dog. Isn't she so cute?
Oh my God. And what a farm you have. I love it. Anyone who wants to be entertained, really entertained, should watch Lisa on Instagram, because it is so fabulous. And you just get to see a slice of the real Lisa. So that's a lovely thing.
Well, you're very sweet, Dan. I got to get back on and make sure I'm following you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Again, the book is The Unraveling of Julia. It's by Lisa Scottoline. It's out now, available everywhere you get your fine book purchases.
And I'll see you in Tustin.
Sounds like a winner. Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Out with Dan. You can find more information about this podcast and its host at outwithdan.com, on Twitter at outwithdan, and on Instagram and Facebook at Go Out with Dan. This podcast is hosted by Authors on the Air Global Radio Network, and the theme music is provided by bensound.com. Join us again soon for the next episode of Out with Dan.